Page 143. The book that we're using is, we have some on the shelf. Shabbos.
Excuse me, Rabbi. We're wondering, can you, on Shabbos, if you have a hot cholent that's like all of the water's like evaporated, can you put water into the hot cholent?
Ah, that is a chapter of cooking. There is a permissible way.
It is?
There is a permissible way.
Whoa, okay.
No.
We were having that struggle last Shabbos, so we were like, what should we do?
So
No.
there is after class we'll.
Okay, great.
But in case you're worried, the cholent was good.
It was amazing, yeah.
It was good.
Great.
It wasn't so dry.
Okay. So last week we had the malacha of sorting, which was sorting, which is separating. That was last week's lesson, was separating the wanted from the unwanted. And we learned the permissible way would be there is a mixture of wanted. So everything, if everything is wanted, then there is no malacha that's involved. So that's not an issue. It's only if there's something that you want now and something that you don't want, or you don't want either of them, then separating the mixture, that would be a malacha. Anything that's for later use. The only permissible way would be that if you take what you want now and take the wanted and leave the unwanted behind, don't do it with a special tool. And if it is a fork or a spoon, but the reason why you're using it is because you want an extension of your hand, then that would be permissible. So if you want the noodles from the soup, you're allowed to, the spoon is not considered a tool. You could eat with the spoon, take the noodles that you want, and the vegetables that you don't want that you leave behind. So the spoon in that case is not considered tool. Same thing would be also if you have a challenge and you only want the potatoes, you're not going to be eating anything else, only the potatoes. So you are permitted to take a spoon or fork and take it out of the challenge, potatoes, because you don't want to do it with your hands. So the spoon or fork is an extension of your hands. But you could not use a special tool, which would be a slotted spoon. A slotted spoon is a spoon that has the holes in them, and that is to take a solid and leave the liquid behind. You would not use that special tool to make your separation. The same would also be that when you're eating an apple. So you eat what you want, you eat what you don't want, what you don't want you leave behind. You don't want to eat the pits, you don't want to eat the core. You could not use a special tool to separate the apple from the core. There is something that's called a corer, right? On Shabbos, you cannot use it because that is a tool to separate the wanted and the unwanted. The same thing is also, you have the core that's used for the center of the pineapple. That's a tool. So the tool you could not use. You could use a knife. That's considered what you're cutting to, but that's not a special tool, that's a separating tool. Okay, so now, so the permissible way would take what you want for immediate use and without a special tool. That's what is permissible. Now let's go to page 143, which is finding. In the Mishkan, they used different plants and herbs to make the colors. So we went through all the steps that was a part of the processing of making a color dye. You had the red, purple, the blue. Those were the colors that were used. So they used different herbs. The same steps that it takes to make red, the same steps are involved in making the dye. So the next step is they wanted to make it into a powder. So you take the plants, you take the herbs, or when making bread, you have the grain, whether it's wheat or rye or oats or barley. So you would then grind it and make it into a powder. Grinding something, making something fine, breaking it down to its components, that is the malacha. So on page 143, whether you're using a millstone, that is what is being used here as a special grinder, or you use a mortar and a pestle. A mortar is a cup. The pestle, the cup is usually, I don't know if they used to have this as an advertisement for a pharmacy, to apothecary, they used to have that in the window of a pharmacy, of the drugstore, because they used to make their own drugs. So part of it was, if you had a small amount, you used to have a special cup that was made out of copper, round. That's the mortar, and then you had a pestle that would fit exactly to it, also around, and then they would pound it until they would pound the substance that they're trying to make it into a powder. They would do it not with a mortar, but not with a grinding machine, but actually in the store. Therefore, they used to have this. The pestle and mortar used to be the advertisement that this is a drugstore. Now everyone gets killed, everyone gets everything ready, but this is so using a mortar and a pestle. I don't know if people have that in their kitchen. It's part of the kitchen. People have it.
My dad has one that's like stone, and he grinds
Yeah.
peppers and
Okay, so using that on Shabbos cannot be done. Whether it's electric, usually right now they have the electric ones, they have the electric grinders. Or using even a manual one on Shabbos cannot be done. And the same would also apply. The malacha is taking some substance and making it very fine, making it small. That is the malacha. So this only applies to things that grow from the ground. So chopping vegetables very finely with a knife is a part of this malacha. So now, what is did anyone go to a house where they are making the meal and they take the onions and they cut the onions very fine? Is that on Shabbos? Did you ever see that being done in a house or not?
Yeah.
You did see it. Okay, now, so was a transgression done? So we have as follows. Normally, if it is being done for a later time, that is a malacha, according to all opinions. The difference would be, what happens if you're doing it right before the meal? Is that considered a manner of eating? Just like we said, that separating a mixture, that if you're taking what you want when you're ready to eat, then that's not a malacha, that is called eating. However, if you did the same action, taking what you want and leaving it for the next meal, then that was a transgression, that was a malacha, that was a Torah prohibition.
wait, taking what you want and
Leaving what, yes, you're separating a mixture for later use is a malacha. The only time it is permissible is when you're doing it when you're ready to eat. Same would be also, going back to our separating, if you peel an orange, peel an egg, peel a banana. So it matters when you're doing it. If you're doing it when you're ready to eat, preparing for the meal, then that is the manner of eating. So you could peel the eggs when you're ready to make the egg salad that you're going to be eating now for this meal. Same thing as peeling the oranges that you're going to be eating the fruit salad that you're eating now. If you peel the eggs in the morning before you go to shul, and then you're going to be eating it after you come back from shul, that was a malacha, because it was done for a later time. It's not called a manner of eating, it's called a manner of preparation. And that is a Torah prohibition. Coming back again now to cutting something up fine. So there are two opinions about cutting something fine before you're eating. Okay, so when you do, so therefore there is an opinion that says that when you're ready to make your egg salad, and you're going to be putting the fine chopped onions in your egg salad or your tuna salad, so you could peel the eggs when you're ready to make the egg salad. You could chop up the onions when you're ready to use them for the egg salad or tuna salad. That's one opinion. Another opinion says that we do not cut up vegetables fine on Shabbos. So how small is small? So generally, the accepted opinion is there's no exact description of how small something could be cut up on Shabbos, but usually they say if it's a little bigger than the Israeli salad. Everyone started, when I say Israeli salad, everyone says has a picture of what an Israeli salad is. It's cut up small. So on Shabbos, when making the salad, you make it bigger than the Israeli salad. Bigger tomatoes, bigger cucumbers, bigger peppers. If you do it on Friday, there is no restriction. Friday, you could do whatever malacha you want. That's the preparations, separating, and everything else that's been done. You want to grind it, everything on Friday. On Shabbos is where so the Alter Rebbe in Shulchan Aruch says one should take the more strict opinion about cutting things fine on Shabbos, even when you're doing it before you're eating. He suggests that it should not be done. However, he does say that there are communities that do it, and that is acceptable for those communities. There was no transgression was done. Your question. Question?
Sorry, I was focusing and I think I forgot.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Oh,
Yes.
This is, you don't do it too small, is it's so that they don't
Grinding.
mix together?
No, that's because of
Oh.
grinding.
Grinding.
It's a
Oh,
malacha of grinding. Yes.
Great.
So I wanted to ask about preparation. You can't prepare like anything at all, or like can you like set the table in advance? Like
Anything that a malacha is not involved, you could do as long as it is for Shabbos.
like could you set the table like
You could-
5 hours in advance?
If you're not separating a mixture, if the utensils are each in their own compartment, then no malacha is involved. If, however, you have it on the drying rack, where all the utensils and knife, spoons, and forks are all mixed together, that is a mixture. Separating the mixture can only be done when ready to use. So your question, could you set the table? So it matters where your knife, spoons, and forks are located. Also, it matters where your dishes are located. So if they are, each one has its own, each one is its own category, then you're not separating a mixture. The only issue over there is separating a mixture. If separating a mixture is not involved, you're allowed to do it 5 hours before. You're allowed to do it the night before. If everything is its own compartment, the knives are in the knife compartment, the spoons are in spoon compartment, the forks in fork compartment, then there is no mixture. If, however, they all mix together in your drawer, everything is together, so then separating them could only be done when you're ready to serve the meal.
If you want to have a meal with like a big fork and a small fork, like two, right? But like all your forks are just in one spot, because it's like the same utensil, but it's like for different
purposes, yes.
Okay.
So even though they're the same utensil of their forks, but since usually you use the small fork for one type of food, the big fork for another, so that they're considered two separate things. The same thing is also with your soup spoons and your dessert
you can
spoons.
do it, but you can't do it in advance.
That's
It
correct.
says at the table,
That's correct.
but
That's correct.
just like
That's correct. Again, if let's say again, one more minute, if all your utensils are spread out on the table, but they're not mixed together, so there's no mixture. It's only when they are together and mixed together.
What about like if you have the eggs peeled before Shabbos?
And
Can you mash them up or no?
okay, now here we have that's part of our chapter, what we're going to be speaking about now. This is what we're going to be discussing now. Okay. Yes, your question, Ariel?
Oh, no, I think it was a silly question. I was thinking if you have on a plate, like something, you can cut it up small. It's like bite-sized pieces. I don't know. I answered.
So, okay. So now, so here we have on page 144, we have the forbidden to chop vegetables into small pieces for later eating. That's according to all opinions. What about small pieces to be done now? So there are those who avoid this. This is in Chabad. They avoid cutting things into small pieces, cut them bigger than usual. For immediate use, there are those communities that do cut them up right before eating. Now, page 144. When cutting something lengthwise, let's say you're cutting cucumbers, does cutting them very, very thin go into this category? Even though you're not chopping it in all directions, but you're just cutting it in one thing, but you're making the slices very, very thin. So again, there are two opinions concerning that. The Tzemach Tzedek, the third Lubavitcher Rebbe, says that also goes into this category. One, when one is cutting cucumbers or peppers, not to make them very thin, because even if you're not chopping them in all directions, cutting them very thin in one direction goes into this category. Now, question, what about things that do not grow from the ground? Are you allowed to cut them very fine? Or are you allowed to mash them? So here we have on page 144, things that do not grow from the ground, but are edible as is: meat, sausages, cheese, eggs, fish. Does not go into this category. You can cut up into a knife because it is not something that is considered a ground item, because it does not grow from the ground. You could use the end of a fork to mash them. You do not use a special tool. There is what is called a masher that has all the holes. So in Shabbos, we do not use the masher. It's a special tool to mash. So same thing would also be a grater. Everyone know what a grater is? It has a little hole. So using that on Shabbos. So we do not use a grater on Shabbos. We don't use a masher on Shabbos. You could use a knife for those items for which grinding does not apply. You could also use the end of a fork. That's not considered a special tool for mashing. So you can use the end of a fork to mash your eggs and tuna, and what else is, if you want to do the same with also with meat, you want to give it to a small child. So all of this could be done. Could be done in advance as well. Now the same would also, there is chopper that you have the little cup. It has in it has blades in it, and then putting the handle up and down. So this on Shabbos cannot be used. It's a special tool for cutting things fine. So even doing that with the eggs, we would not use that special tool for cutting them fine. However, there is a tool that could be used, and it's called a slicer. You have an egg slicer. So the egg slicer is a shape of an egg, has a top to it, and it has little blades in it. Then you close it, and it slices your eggs nicely. That could be used on Shabbos. It's considered like a knife, different blades. So it's not considered a chopper. It's just a slicer, and that could be used. There is an opinion says not to do that. Again, that would be according to the community that you're in. Cutting cheese with very fine is okay. So as far as those items that do not grow from the ground, so this malacha is not involved, and you can do that whenever you wish during Shabbos, as long as it is being done for Shabbos. Now,
so like you feel like finally, like if you don't want to use the fork, you're allowed to like
you can use
kind of use that
with a knife, yeah, with a knife.
But you don't have to like eat it right away. It could be for later.
Yeah, for that which does not grow from the ground, so it's not a malacha. So therefore, there's no restriction as long as you're doing it for Shabbos.
So what about avocados?
Okay. Now, here we have so that which does grow from the ground, so they cannot be cannot be cut down very, very finely. Now, Here we have on
Can you do it in?
page 146, let's look on 146. Now, the difference between chopping and mashing is such that when you chop something, what is the result? Chopping something, you get
Pieces?
little pieces that are separate one from another. When you're mashing, what do you get? One entity, one item that's just being spread out, but you didn't separate one from the other. So there's a difference between mashing and chopping. Yes? Okay. Now in that case, right before eating, one could mash something that is soft, that is not going to separate, but just going to become one mush that's being spread out. And therefore, your question about avocado or banana. So if the avocado is that soft, that you're using it as a spread, so then you did not separate them, you're just smoothing, you're just extending them, making them thinner. So that would be permissible, but only if it is soft, only if it's going to be spread rather than being chopped up. The same thing is also with example that's given with potatoes. If they're completely cooked and gentle pressure is enough. So there are those who say that it should be done right before you're actually going to use it. So that's going to be a manner of eating. But we try to do this with a shinui to remember that it's Shabbos. We do it in an unusual way. So we would use the back of a utensil, back of a spoon, back of a fork, instead of using the tin themselves, rather using the back to remember that it's Shabbos, to make sure that it's soft enough that it's not going to, just break apart without you actually having to chop it, because it was already been, let's say when it comes to potato, it's already been cooked, it's already been broken down already through the cooking before Shabbos, or when it's a part of the chont. Now,
But only if it's soft enough?
only if it's
But only if it's soft enough? Like
only if it's soft enough, correct? Only if it's soft enough.
too hard, you can't do it?
Only, right. Only if it's soft enough. So this should be done right before eating. We call that in the manner of eating. So then that would be permissible. We would not do. So as far as chopping up the eggs, that can be done at any time because it does not apply, but anything that grows from the ground. So then this malacha does apply, and therefore it should be done right before eating. Something that was ground before Shabbos, and it was made back into a big piece. Breaking it down again would be permissible. Let's take an example. Are you allowed to take a cookie? You want to give it to a child, you want to just break it down. Or a piece of matzah. Take matzah, break it down. The cookie and the matzah both are ingredients that grow from the ground. Are you allowed to break it down on Shabbos? Go for yourself. You like to have broken cookies.
If you're gonna eat it right away.
So let's see what would be involved here. So the rule is that you could, something that was originally broken down already, something that was originally ground, and you are breaking it down, as long as you don't break it down to something that is finer than it was when you started, it would be permissible. So in the case of the cookies, it started off as flour. When you're breaking down the cookies, you're not making it finer than the flour. then it's permissible. Same thing as matzah. The matzah originally was flour. When you're breaking it down, you're not making it less than flour. So that would be permissible. So it would be crackers and cookies, and the same would also be with sugar. You have sometimes the sugar becomes lumps. Are you allowed to break? The sugar does come from the ground. It comes from the sugar cane or sugar beets or whatever it may be. It is from the ground. But the fact that it was originally made into the granules, and now you have made it into, now it became hard. Same thing as hard salt, or sometimes you have the sugar cubes. So breaking them down on Shabbos is permissible because you're not breaking them finer than the granules that they were originally. So that would be permissible.
Well, then what about putting a sugar cube in water because it dissolves, so it's smaller than.
So that would be permissible. You're taking it's dissolving it. That would be permissible. Why? Let me think why. Well, the same thing would be also with things that we dissolve, which
Probably
would be.
because we're not doing it physically, we're not.
No, it
grinding.
has to be another. Let me see what category would this go. Because you're not pounding it. It would only be if you're actually physically pounding it down. So dissolving it would not go into this category. So the same would be also when you have the instant coffee granules, the instant tea granules, the instant cocoa granules. All of this you could use on Shabbos. The thing would be if you are doing it with hot water, then there's the permissible way of doing it. That goes into the cooking, not to cook the sugar or the coffee or the so it would be a kli shlishi. You would not put your ingredients in your cup and then go to the urn and directly pour the hot water onto your instant coffee, sugar, or tea, because you are cooking those items inside the cup, because the water coming from the urn or the tea kettle directly on these items that you're cooking them. So the permissible way would be you'd take from the urn cup one. That would be our to the one that's that where everything is being heated, which is our urn, our coffee maker or coffee pot or the tea kettle that's on the blech. That's called number one. First cup is a kli sheni. That's number two. Certain items that are very fine can still be cooked in a kli sheni. Then you would transfer it to our second cup, which is third removed from the original source of hot water. So the first one is called kli rishon, number one. The one where you put it into, this is called kli sheni, number two. And then we have kli shlishi. We transfer the contents of the first cup to the second cup, which is 2 cups, but it's 3 removed from the original urn. That's a kli shlishi, and there, the process is the temperature is dropping. It's not, it keeps getting cooler and cooler. So by the time it cooks anything, the temperature has already dropped and it doesn't have the ability to cook. Now, when it comes to those items, again, we do not use special grinders. So to grind the sugar with a grinder, a chopper that cannot be used to do it, you could pound it with something else, with something that could also be made small. Now, because of medicines were usually made, home remedies were made by the people themselves. That was something that was common. People did not go to the drugstore for every item. Pills were not ready pills. Everything was made manually. And when you were, so therefore, there was a concern about medicines on Shabbos. So there are rules. It's be a special chapter of when a person could take medicine on Shabbos. There are a lot of different situations. A person who has to take them, doctors say that they have to take them every day. Person who's on antibiotics, they have to take them every day. So this is something that continues on Shabbos as well. A person whom the doctors say that this is the medication they have to take on a regular basis, so also that would be fine. It would be, what about taking medicines for a person who is well but does not feel, as themselves? So the rule would be that if you feel that sick, that you have to lie down, then you would be in the category that you're not well, and you could take your, the aspirin, Advil, all the other types of pain relievers. And if you feel that sick that you can't sit at the table, you have to lie down, then you're considered halachically sick. You are even allowed to take a medicine if you know that something is coming up and you want to prevent it from happening. For instance, people who have migraines, at this point, they feel fine, nothing happened. But they know the symptoms that's coming up. If you're not going to take your medication, then the migraine is going to settle in, and then you're not going to be able to sit at the table. It's going to be so painful. So then you're allowed to prevent that from happening. You're allowed to take those, whatever medication is taken, to prevent the onset of this being incapacitated. So that would be permissible. So
I feel like from what I heard, you just gave like a reason, like it's permissible to use different medicines. I guess I'm asking, like, in what case would it not be?
a regular headache, but you could sit at the table, you don't feel comfortable, but you're functioning, you're right, but it's just not. And during the weekdays, you would take something to make you feel better. In that case, you're still able to function. You're able to sit at the table. You're able to have the Shabbos.
What about vitamins?
Vitamins. One would have to consult with their halachic authority. Most say not, since the vitamins are just to keep you going. You could take it before Shabbos. You could take it after Shabbos. Again,
What if it's like those kid vitamins and they chase you in the salad can?
if a well person would eat it as a candy, it goes. If a well person would do that, so then it's considered a food. In other words, let's take an example. Person who is sick is eating. They're having hot chicken soup. It's supposed to be good for people who are well or who are sick because of their certain ingredients in the chicken soup that promotes your health. That's fine because people eat chicken soup. Same thing, a person who has a sore throat, they're going to have tea and honey with so tea and honey is something that a person drinks whether you're sick or not sick. So then, even though your intention is because of your sore throat, and the same thing as this person who eats a candy, and it's a regular candy, and the people who are well have candies, and you're doing so because you have a sore throat and you're trying to have a cough or whatever it may be. This is so anything that is a food, or people who are well would eat this as well. So even though your intention is because of its medicinal qualities, so that would be fine. As far as vitamins are concerned, so one would consult with their halachic authority to see what their situation is. For instance, when it comes to corona, so they say one should take vitamin D and vitamin C and vitamin what else goes?
Zinc.
Okay, zinc. Okay, so all of these things. Now, what happens if a person does have, corona? Should they take? Are they in the category that this is going to prevent them from being, So that would be they would have to consult with their doctor to see what category they are. If it's considered that it would be permitted to take under these circumstances because of this situation or not, they would have to consult with halachic authorities in that situation. Let me, I did not take attendance. I didn't want to take away from class time, so
I can pull it out.
you can fill it out. Okay, please do.
Wait, I have a question not about shabbos milk, but just about like oral in general and about like medicine. When you first wake up in the morning, like before you make your morning breakfast and you're not supposed to eat or drink anything, if you take like a small sip of water to take like medicine, vitamins, whatever, can you do that before you say your morning breakfast, or is there not?
If the situation is that you have to do it as soon as you wake up, it goes according to the circumstances. If you could wait for later, do it later. If it's something that has to be done right away, but since it is for one's health, you're not doing it for one's pleasure, then.
Is there a specific amount of water, like, that you have to say work on? Like, if it's only like a little tiny bit, you have to say work on it?
So with water, we're going to have, I guess you'll have to speak to your, are you learning hilchos in another class?
No.
Not yet, okay, so with water, that's one of those liquids that becomes questionable. You always have to make a bracha on water. So if it is something that you're thirsty, you want to quench your thirst, and then that becomes,
Wait, so you always have to make a bracha?
not always, halachically, no.
Oh, you don't?
You don't know. If anything that is flavored, always a bracha. No matter how small of a sip you're going to take, you always make a bracha. If you're having a little orange juice, a little flavored soda, whatever it may be, anything that has a flavor. So even if you're not thirsty, you're taking that liquid because for its taste or whatever it may be. However, when it comes to water, we consider that you're doing it only for thirst.
Mhm.
So if you are having a pleasure from it, then you make a bracha. If you're just sipping the medicine, technically, then just to get the medicine down, then you would not technically have to make a bracha.
Okay.
Again, what some people will do, they will just take a sip of water anyway, before that, make a bracha in order to sort of,
Right.
to they're parched, they're dry, that they do give them a pleasure, so that they would make a bracha. But technically, if you're just trying to swallow the pill, a bracha technically would not be made. If you're doing it with any other liquid that's flavored, even though you're doing it only to swallow the pill, you wouldn't make a bracha.
Wait, so you should make a bracha if it's just a slow do, and you're not like into
It's very hard to judge. It's a very personal judgment. Are you a little thirsty or not? Are you doing it? You're not thirsty in any way. You're not dry in any way. Yeah, it's a very what? Technically not. Okay, have a wonderful day.
Oh, quick question.